Donald Trump is back in the White House. The year is 2025 and the world is watching with bated breath. For many in Africa, and particularly in Nigeria, Trump's return to power has sparked a mixture of anxiety and apprehension. His previous term was marked by controversial policies and rhetoric that often seemed to marginalize the African continent. Trump's America First agenda, with its focus on inward-looking policies and a disdain for multilateralism, has caused concern among many African leaders. The Trump administration's approach to Africa was seen by many as transactional, prioritizing narrow American interests over genuine partnership and collaboration. As a major player on the African continent, Nigeria has a lot at stake in its relationship with the United States. From security cooperation in the fight against terrorism to economic partnerships and development assistance, the two nations share a complex and multifaceted bond. The coming years will be critical in determining the trajectory of U.S.-Nigeria relations under a second Trump presidency. One of the most immediate and tangible ways in which Trump's America First policy manifested during his first term was through significant cuts to foreign aid. This approach, which prioritized domestic spending over international development assistance, had a ripple effect across the globe, particularly in developing nations like Nigeria. Under Trump's leadership, the U.S. Agency for International Development, or USAID, saw its budget slashed, impacting a wide range of programs in Nigeria, from healthcare initiatives to education projects. These cuts came at a time when Nigeria was already grappling with significant challenges, including poverty, inequality, and a burgeoning population. In rural communities across Nigeria, USAID-funded programs provided vital healthcare services, including immunization drives, maternal health clinics, and HIV/AIDS prevention and treatment. The reduction in funding forced many of these programs to scale back their operations, leaving vulnerable populations with limited access to essential healthcare. USAID-supported programs in Nigeria focused on improving access to quality education, particularly for girls and marginalized communities. The reduction in funding hampered these efforts, limiting opportunities for countless Nigerian children and undermining the country's long-term development prospects. The news of U.S. aid cuts under the Trump administration was met with a mixture of outrage and disappointment in Nigeria. Newspapers ran scathing editorials, accusing the United States of turning its back on a key ally. Civil society organizations staged protests, denouncing the cuts as short-sighted and detrimental to Nigeria's development. Ordinary Nigerians, many of whom had benefited directly or indirectly from U.S.-funded programs, expressed their frustration and anger. "My sister relies on medication from the local clinic that is supported by USAID," said one woman. "What will happen to her if they close down because of these cuts? I was hoping to send my daughter to school with the help of a scholarship program," lamented a father. The message from Nigeria was clear. The U.S. aid cuts were not just numbers on a balance sheet. They were having a real and devastating impact on the lives of ordinary people. In a move that sent shockwaves through the international community, President Trump recently unveiled a controversial proposal for the Gaza Strip. The plan, light on specifics but heavy on audacity, involved the temporary resettlement of Gaza's Palestinian population, potentially paving the way for the territory's transformation into a resort area. The international response was swift and condemnatory. The United Nations denounced the proposal as a violation of international law, while human rights groups decried it as a potential act of ethnic cleansing. Leaders across the globe expressed their outrage, warning of the dangerous precedent such a move would set. Nigeria has consistently advocated for a two-state solution based on the 1967 borders, with East Jerusalem as the capital of a Palestinian state. Nigeria's foreign policy is rooted in principles of self-determination and respect for international law, explained a Nigerian foreign policy expert. Given Nigeria's history of supporting Palestinian self-determination and its commitment to international law, it is highly unlikely that the government would endorse Trump's controversial Gaza plan. Despite the rhetoric of America First, the reality is that Africa remains a region of significant strategic importance to the United States. Nigeria, as Africa's most populous nation and a major economic power, occupies a particularly crucial position in this equation. The United States recognizes Nigeria's importance as a partner in addressing a range of shared challenges, From combating terrorism to promoting economic growth and development, Nigeria is a key player in regional security efforts, particularly in the fight against Boko Haram and other extremist groups. Moreover, Nigeria's vast natural resources, including oil and gas reserves, make it an attractive partner for American businesses. The United States is also keen to tap into Nigeria's growing consumer market and its potential as a hub for innovation and entrepreneurship. However, the Trump administration's approach to Africa, with its emphasis on transactional relationships and its skepticism of multilateralism, has raised questions about the future of U.S.-Nigeria relations. The stakes are high: democracy, security, and economic cooperation. The relationship between the United States and Nigeria extends far beyond aid figures and geopolitical calculations. At its core, it is a partnership rooted in shared values and aspirations for a more just, peaceful, and prosperous world. Nigeria, having emerged from its own history of military rule, is deeply invested in the principles of democracy, good governance, and the rule of law. Security cooperation is another cornerstone of the U.S.-Nigeria relationship. Nigeria is on the front lines of the fight against terrorism, particularly in its struggle against Boko Haram. The United States has provided training, equipment, and intelligence sharing to support Nigeria's counter-terrorism efforts. The United States is a major investor in Nigeria's economy, and American companies are active in sectors ranging from energy to telecommunications. The stakes are high for both countries. Beyond the headlines, the human cost of Trump's policies. While the geopolitical implications of Trump's policies are significant, it is important to remember the human cost of these decisions. Behind the headlines and policy pronouncements are real people whose lives are directly affected by the actions of the Trump administration. The cuts to aid, for instance, have had a ripple effect throughout Nigerian society. Healthcare clinics have been forced to turn away patients, schools have struggled to stay open, and families have been pushed further into poverty. Nigerian students hoping to study in the United States face an increasingly difficult and uncertain visa process. Entrepreneurs seeking to do business with American companies are hesitant to invest, fearing that the rules of the game could change at any moment. The human cost of Trump's policies is not limited to Nigeria. A call to action: Nigeria's expectations from the United States. As the United States charts its course in a changing world, Nigeria has a message for its American partners. Partnership must be based on mutual respect, shared values, and a commitment to working together to address common challenges. Nigeria expects the United States to engage with Africa as an equal partner, not as a junior player or a recipient of charity. This means listening to African voices, respecting African agency, and supporting African solutions to African problems. Nigeria also expects the United States to be a reliable and predictable partner. This means honoring commitments, upholding agreements, and engaging in constructive dialogue, even when there are disagreements. Nigeria expects the United States to recognize the importance of investing in Africa's future. The relationship between the United States and Nigeria has the potential to be a powerful force for good in the world. The road ahead: navigating the future of U.S.-Nigeria relations. As we look ahead, the future of U.S.-Nigeria relations remains uncertain. The Trump administration's America First agenda, with its emphasis on transactional relationships and its skepticism of multilateralism, has created a sense of unease among many in Nigeria. However, amidst the uncertainty, there are also glimmers of hope. The strong people-to-people ties between the United States and Nigeria, the vibrant Nigerian diaspora in the United States, and the shared interests in areas such as security and economic development provide a solid foundation for future cooperation. Navigating the road ahead will require both sides to approach the relationship with a spirit of pragmatism, understanding, and a willingness to find common ground despite differences. The United States must recognize that its interests are best served not by pursuing a go-it-alone approach, but by working in partnership with African nations like Nigeria. By choosing the path of partnership, dialogue, and mutual respect, the United States and Nigeria can build a relationship that benefits both nations and contributes to a more peaceful and prosperous world.